Hello, and welcome to Asase, a podcast that honors oral tradition and shines a light on Ghanaian stories that are often untold or silenced. My name is Michelle, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm very happy to be back for a brand new episode. And in case you didn't know, Asase is not only a podcast, it's also a website. The website contains curated resources by and for Ghanaians on the themes that I talk about on this show. So that's traditional spiritualities, cultural work, and queer identities. And you're also welcome to submit resources there as well. And it may just appear on the website. I really want to build this directory of different resources for and by Ghanaians in Ghana and around the diaspora so that, we have dedicated resources for and by us because we need more of those, honestly. And, I'm really happy to see all these resources that are shared on social media pages. And I'm happy to see different things pop up. I remember when I used to do my Googles, on different things to do with history, culture, queer identity, spirituality. I didn't always get the best results. So, I always yearned for a space where I can get all the research that I wanted or just hear about the experiences of different people within those different themes. And that's why I created asasebapod.com, the website. All right, so that's one way to support Asase, going on the website, checking out the resources, all of that. Another way to support is if you're enjoying the episode, if something resonates with you, you can support in two ways. The first way is by sharing. Asase is on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at asasebapod. You can support by, posting on your Insta stories, retweeting, sharing on WhatsApp, telling your mama, your daddy, your uncle, your cousins, your friends, your parent, your siblings, whoever, right? And just by engaging and providing feedback and letting me know your thoughts. And when you share on social media, feel free to use the hashtag ASASEBAPOD so that I can see it and others can see it as well. Another way to support the podcast is through monetary donations. I'm the sole producer, editor, planner, graphic designer, interviewer, doer of all the things. And, I love this work and I'm passionate about what I do. But it is also work. And if you want to support me as an indie creator, especially if you've learned something from this podcast, it resonates with you in any way, you can donate via email transfer for those in Canada. And if you're outside of Canada, you can donate via PayPal. And the email for that is asasebapod@gmail.com. So that's asasebapod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your support. I always appreciate it. All right, so today's an interview episode, and I have a very special guest. David, pronouns he, him, is a passionate human rights activist, advocate for youth empowerment, and SDGs champion. He's currently the project officer of Pan Africa ILGA, and he firmly believes that the essence of life is life itself and all the basics that go with it. He also believes that laws are made by people, for people, and should not be biased in any way that leads to discrimination. Period. In this episode, David joins me to talk about some of the experiences of queer people in Ghana, the proposed anti-LGBT bill in Ghana, what it means to be visibly queer, heteronormativity, and much, much more. This was such a candid and open conversation, and if something resonates with you, if you can relate to something, hashtag asasebapod. Now on to the interview. All right. Thank you, David, for joining me today for Asase. Can you please introduce yourself?
So just a brief introduction. I am David Labi from Ghana. I'm a human rights activist, a youth advocate, youth empowerment advocate, and also an SDG champion. Currently, I am the project officer for Pan-African ILGA. So Pan-African ILGA is the African chapter of the ILGA world. ILGA World, yes, ILGA World, and then we work across the African continent, all the 54 African countries, and so yeah, that is who David is. Yeah.
Yes, love it. And so I want to start off just by asking, what are some of the experiences that queer people face in Ghana? You can speak to your own experience or just in general, but I know that you work with queer and LGBTQ plus organizations. What are some of the experiences and what does the climate look like for queer folks in Ghana?
Well, thank you for the question. I mean, the experiences are like they are a lot, and even for me, I have my own because I'm a queer person living in Ghana. And it's like once you live in a society where people perceive you to be an abomination, it's like automatically you are bound to go through that kind of experience. And so some of the experience that comes with it is blackmail. I mean, you end up being blackmailed by people who feel that you shouldn't be gay, and they have the sense of entitlement, and so they will chat you wherever on any of the social media page and lure you to a particular place, and then they'll begin to abuse you. I mean, beat you and all those things. And one of the experiences we had to do is eviction, loss of job, and I mean family rejection. I mean, those are the challenges people are going through. And for me, the abuse that people go through, even the hateful comment from religious people. Every time you go to church as a religious person and your pastor brings up the message, they always use words that would demean you as a human being, and you even feel that you are not part of you shouldn't be part of the human race. I mean, you don't qualify to be a human being. And so those are some of the experiences. And even that, what I'm saying is pre the anti-LGBT bill that is currently in Parliament. And even now, since the bill was introduced in Parliament, the attack on the community has gone up day in and day out. We get people being abused here and there. And also, I feel that a lot of, even within the community, sometimes we just have to be honest and say that within the community, we get people, our own self, we abuse each other, we make spaces feel uncomfortable for other queer persons. And so, for instance, recently I was following on a case where a queer person is taking advantage of another queer person because this person is young, and then he is trying in the name of I'm helping you, but then he's taking advantage of this young person, which is quite a challenge. But of course, I blame the society we find ourselves, which it's so heteronormative, and growing up, you are taught to be straight and not to be different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so hard. And even as like a queer person living in that kind of climate where you face the threat of, physical violence, emotional violence, just violence all around, I can imagine how much anxiety that causes and how much fear. And I know like you touched on what's going on in terms of like bills, potential bills that are, have been introduced in
Mm,
Parliament, like the anti-LGBT bill. But
right.
can you walk us through, the past several years?
I will talk about when I came into that space. I got
Mhm.
fully into the space in 2018. But I started from the grassroots level, and where there is no space like to organize. There wasn't such like a visible organizing happening. Queer people, we always it is very important for us to find community. And
Yeah.
so in 2019, when LGBT plus rights Ghana started, that is my former organization. When they started, we were young people who we were unapologetic, and we were living our life. We were visible. We don't care about what people say or the opinion people have about us. What we said is that we want to put forth the challenges people go through. We want to challenge the societal norms that queer people have the right to exist. And so for me, what led to we being here today, I mean, of course, the proponents of the anti-LGBT bill and the anti-LGBT coalition that is in Ghana currently, what they are saying is that even the proponents of the bill, one of them, the leading person, that is Honorable Sam George, what he said is that they live with queer people since even they were growing up. But then since we are robbing our gayness on their face and like our queerness on their face, and we are forcing it down their throats, then they need to pass a bill to cube the LGBTQI activity, which I don't know what they mean by LGBTQI activity. And so for me, visibility comes with a cost. And so for me, since 2018, the visibility that queer young people have been able to like put out and say that the community is here, we are here to stay, we've been here, and you are no more going to drive us under the bars, like under the ground. You don't want to hear our voice. You are no more going to silence us. Like we are taking, we are demanding for our rights. And so I feel that the resilience since 28, like the resilience that as we've seen in the queer community in Ghana, that is what has got us to this point, because they are saying that is what they are saying, which we know is a lie, because globally we know that the US evangelical group, they are the most people promoting hate and homophobia across the world, and it's not only in Ghana. And so for you to tell us that it's because queer people are saying that they want to be protected, they want to live freely, and you are saying because of that you want to legislate how people identify, legislate identity, which doesn't make sense. But then also for me, I understand that visibility comes at a cost, and that is what we are seeing today. Yeah.
Yeah. And that whole point about visibility, that is so important, because it's like, I know, with the current climate in Ghana, it's challenging to be out and visible and queer, publicly queer, but it is important. And I understand why some people may not want to do that because of the violence, the potential violence. But what does it mean to you to be visibly queer in a climate where all these people, the states, different religious group, the media are continuously perpetrating a lot of bigotry?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, for me, being visible is very important, because I mean, there is no going back for me, because when I said that this is who I am and I've accepted myself, that is it. I don't care what any other person thinks. So for me, visibility is very important for queer people to be visible. Visible, the reason why some of us we are visible, with even though the climate is not conducive, the attacks, even on social media, the social media trolls, like all that is happening, people coming to your DM to threaten you and all those things, that but we are still living, we are still like openly being gay, like being ourselves. It's because we are tired of always people putting us in a box. Because I quite remember there was a time I was in a mall, and those people who go around the streets to interview people, they were asking me, how do I like my women? And for me, it's like, what do you mean? How do you meet people on the street and ask them how do they like their women? Did I ever tell you that I'm into women? Do you know my sexuality? So we are tired of always people assuming. For me, I am personally tired of always people assuming my sexuality and thinking that I am straight, as we say, like I am an heterosexual. And so for me, it's that also forms part of why I still think that I need to be visible. But also, I think one of the things people forget when it comes to being visible is that you also have to be intentional about the spaces you find yourself. I am very visible I am there, my social media, everything speaks. It speaks about my identity, who I am. I mean, when you go to my social media, nobody should tell you that this person is not gay. You will know that I am queer, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, the thing is that, but then also I am very mindful of who I engage, who I bring to my space, and the spaces I find myself. I am so mindful of those things because, in as much as I'm visible, my security is also a priority. I have to put my security first, and I should make sure that I will not be in spaces that I'm not wanted, and I always have to be in spaces that is welcoming and it's conducive for me and also for my mental health sake. And so, no matter what is happening in Ghana, I am still living. I mean, and a lot of queer people that I know are still being visible. And trust me, no matter what you are seeing now in Ghana, I mean, the bill and all those things, the resilience, it's amazing. Like the resilience, how queer people, especially queer young people, how they are challenging the status quo. And even on social media, it's so amazing. And it's it's like it's overwhelming. Like it, you'll be happy to see what is happening. So I'm just going to say that no matter what is happening, just be you. But then the thing is that you also have to be mindful of your environment, of the society you are in, of who, like people you bring into your space, who you engage, and the spaces you find yourself. And that is the bottom line. Yeah.
Yeah, that is such a good point. And when you were talking, you mentioned heterosexism and like the assumption that people make that you're automatically straight, you're straight by default. And I
Mm.
know that's something that is so exhausting. And even people that, call themselves allies can be guilty of that because part
Right.
of being an ally, right? Part of being an ally is also challenging the heterosexism within you and the heteronormativity. It's not just, changing adding like a pride flag in June or like stuff like that. It's also like
Yeah.
when you're
Mm.
talking to your friends, your family, not assuming that everyone is straight by default or want the same thing. And so that's something that I notice a lot. Like the heteronormativity is it's such a norm that it goes unchallenged a lot of the times. But I love that you called that out. And can you speak more to that? Because it's just like something that I notice a lot. And it's just so frustrating to me when people just assume that you're straight by default. You want to, get married and have that kind of traditional heterosexual life. You know what I mean? So can you speak more to that?
Right. Yeah, for me, what I would say is that heteronormative has been um like it has been woven into society. So when growing up, all that we don't see anything different. I wouldn't mention queer or gay, but like, and we don't see anything different, right? The only thing we grow up to know is a man and a woman getting married, like this whole societal construct. Like it has been instituted. It has been like it has formed part of the society we find ourselves that everybody needs to be straight, like everybody needs to be heterosexual, as we say, heteronormative society that we find ourselves. What happened is that even in your household, even your uncles who might feel different, who might not even be straight, but because they are ashamed of who they are or who they realize to be, they try to even cover it up and also go according to the norm, how society is saying that you have to be this, you can't be this way. And so that is what we tend to know, like we grew up to come to know. So every other person has this mindset that once you grow up and you get to a certain age, you have to get married, you have to have a child. And then it's funny how sometimes you go to spaces, people ask you, so are you married? And then when you tell them that you're not married, they'll ask you, how old are you? And when you tell them your age, they'll be like, but you are doing a good, like you have a good job, you're able to rent. so why is it that you don't get married? It's like it has become a thing. Like everybody thinks that marriage is for everyone. And even if I am an heterosexual, is marriage for everyone? That is a question we need to ask ourselves. Like, is marriage the yardstick to measure the success of another human being? Like, where did we get this kind of mindset from, that if you don't get married, then you don't qualify to be a man, or some sort of, I mean, people have this funny way of thinking about marriage, right? And that is how it even come that a lot of heterosexual marriages, they get abused, and then they tend to say that it's for better, for worse, which doesn't make sense. Like, a fellow human being will abuse you, and you say that you can't leave the marriage because even your belief says that you can't divorce on certain grounds. There are grounds that you can divorce on, but grounds like you being abused and all those things, you can't divorce. And this is what the church is preaching. And for me, such religion, I don't want to get involved, because if what you are preaching is hate, you are preaching hate to the extent that you are preaching that another human being to hate another human being that he has decided to say that I want to be in holy matrimony with you, but then he ends up abusing this person. And this same church people are saying that, who are supposed to preach love, are saying that you have to stay, you can't leave. So we grow up to see, like, every part of our single, like everywhere we go, we see heteronormative a way of doing things. I mean, and also patriarchy plays into the whole idea of how things should be done. Who should be a man? Who qualifies to be a man? And who qualifies to be a woman? And so, I mean, of course, being gay means that you are trying to defile the concept of being a man. You get it? Because, I mean, people have this funny way of saying that, how can you be gay? I mean, you are defiling, like, I just want to use a particular word, but I just don't get it. But of course, as I'm saying, it's like, once you are gay, people see you to be that you are not living up to the standard of being a man. You don't qualify to be a man. And so that is, and even if you are lesbian, you don't qualify to be a woman because you don't conform to society. But it's 2021. Who is talking about conformity? Like, who actually wants to conform in 2021? Like, people should be able to live and be themselves and be fabulous. Like, yeah, that is what I'm going to say.
Yeah. In 2023, it's like, why are we still thinking in these terms, thinking in this way? Like, why can't we just be? It's just exhausting to constantly follow this script, this mapped out way of being. We're humans. We have different experiences. We just let people live, as long as no one is hurting anyone, or, let's just live, So I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, but even sexuality, sexuality is fluid. Like, sexuality is so complicated that I think that even those people think heterosexual people are being unfair to the world, to be honest. And I'm going to say this, and it should be well noted. They are being unfair because sexuality is so complicated that you can never say that sexuality is one particular way people identify, like, as heteronormative. And people mention the word heteronormative being the majority. And the thing I always tell myself is that the fact that that is what society has made known doesn't mean that is the norm, and that doesn't mean that is the majority. They are the majority. Heterosexual people are majority, because trust me, people are hiding behind heterosexuality, and then we have queer people. We have queer people who LGBTQia people who identify with the community, who don't want people to know who they are, and so they will hide behind heterosexuality, and they'll be portraying the ways of heterosexual people so that nobody will know that they are different. And so for me, when you tell me that for me, I really think that the word majority and minority is subjective. It's really subjective because I as a man, let's put aside my sexuality. As a man, I I will be majority at a place where I'll be counted among being a majority. And then when my sexuality come into play, I become a minority, right? And so those two words is very subjective. It's not like a thing that it is absolute.
Right.
It is not absolute. Like it is not absolute. And trust me, I can tell you a lot of people, as I'm saying, sexuality is complicated. People can be different things. They can be different things. They can be pansexual, demisexual, but then we've boxed everything under heterosexuality and say that if you can't be this way, if you can't be heterosexual, then you can't be any other thing, which is like, which we are being unfair if we should go that way. But
Yeah,
well, we
definitely.
find ourselves in a society that has never been fair, and so it is okay for them. But for some of us, we are here to challenge the status quo, and we'll do that until our last day on this earth. Yeah.
Right. And I wonder, like, if we lived in a society where we weren't prescribed to be heterosexual in order to get these material benefits, social benefits, etc., I wonder how people would approach their sort of romantic interests or sexual interests. I wonder how that would change things, because heterosexuality is tied to so many different facets of life, like
Mm, mm.
economic, material access for a lot of people, social. And so if we were thinking about a new way to organize society or change things, revolutionize things, and we didn't tie everything to having this sort of heterosexual image, then what would society look like? So that's definitely very interesting to think about.
No, for me, I'm just going to put this in one word. If we should do away with this whole heteronormative way of thinking, way of doing things, the world will be a better place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And you've touched on this with your other answers, but I know that, like, just based on what I've read, what's going on in Ghana, religious groups, the state, government, media, they a lot of the times reinforce a lot of this bigotry towards queer folks. Can you expand on how each of these groups do this?
So I think when we mentioned with the religious group, everyone in Ghana is religious. Every person in Ghana is religious. Why do I say that? Because even when we are growing up, we are being forced to go to church. We are being forced to go to church if you're a Christian, and you are being forced to go to the mosque if you're a Muslim. And so these are the two religions that are dominating in Ghana. And so the thing is that they don't even give you the chance to choose where you belong and how you want to worship whoever you believe in, right? For me, I believe that you can't live and not believe in anything. You have to believe in something. But we don't have any option as people growing up. We are being showed the way of our family, the way of our ancestors, to say that your great grandfather was a Roman Catholic member. And so that is how we all follow the trend. And so every person in Ghana, no matter how open-minded you are, even if you want to make a comment about liberation, about the liberation of queer people or the right of queer people, you are mindful because you don't want to be ostracized by your church. If I'm using the right word, you don't want your church to know that you have a different opinion about it. And so every aspect, it doesn't give you the room to be able to think outside the box and be able to be rational. Like, to be honest, it doesn't give you the option to be rational because it has certain sort of way of thinking and certain way of like say that you should do things, even how people dress. People, some certain dresses that they'll put on, they feel that if they put on and another Christian sister or Christian brother sees it, they are going to like, I mean, tell them that they are being Satan is taking over their soul, those kind of things. And in Ghana, one thing is that people, I mean, Christians, those who go to church, they really see their pastors to be like God. And so whatever their pastors say, that is what they tend to take. But they don't even really want to find out. But of course, if you belong to a particular religious group that has caged your mind, that doesn't give you the option to think outside the box. This is what we are going to experience. So how they organize is very simple. They feed on the ignorance of all Ghanaians. Most Ghanaians, let me not use all, they feed on the ignorance of most Ghanaians to be able to push their agenda. And it's simple because, of course, they will feed on your ignorance to say that, oh, queer people are evil, they are this, and so we will not give them their rights. I mean, go march on the streets, and So basically, that is how they do organize. And the thing is that they are surviving because already the society is a breeding ground for them already. Like it has already been structured in a way that favors them, and so it's easy for them to organize. And so it's just a simple word, and then their members tend to obey what they are saying, and they tend to be ignorant about everything, and they don't even want to know. And funny enough, the current bill in Parliament, when this bill goes through, it will criminalize a lot of people, even the media. They'll have issues. Some of them will begin to go to jail, and they're always afraid to challenge the church or to fact check some of the statements and some of the comments that the church elders and leaders make. And so in Ghana, we have the church groups like their elders. I mean, the religious groups, those who are leading, the leaders of the religious movements and all that, they are the main force behind the homophobia, the bigotry, and the rhetorics that we see all around. Yeah.
Yeah. And we see some of the media also just platforming people that are very bigoted and even being bigoted and biased in the reporting. I want to know, just like amidst all that is going on and the challenges that queer people face, just for you personally, what does queer joy look like right now while dealing with the anti-LGBT rhetoric?
Well, queer joy, it's really, I would say that it's really complicated. I mean, you really want to live your life. I mean, for me, let's say I am really living my life, but also I also have to be like, it's like I am being me, but I also have to be conscious of the next person who is watching. Am I safe? So I think that is I am living my life. I am being me, regardless of what is happening, regardless of the bill. I wouldn't say that because of the bill, I wouldn't have any intimacy with anybody. I'll be scared. I'm not scared, and I'm being me. I'm being myself. I don't care about what people say. But also, the fear of being attacked, the fear of even being evicted from my house when my landlord gets to find out, has always come to play here. That am I even living fully as a queer person? Am I even being myself? No matter all that I'm doing, to be able to make sure that I'm comfortable with my queerness, is it 100%? I think that is something that we all have to think about. The thing is that no matter how you are living as a queer person in Ghana, you still have some sort of you always have this thing like behind your mindset that you have to watch your back. So you always have to watch your back because anybody at all could attack you. Anybody at all could to end your life any moment. And so queer joy is very complicated. But then I think that for me, for instance, I'm navigating and I'm still navigating. I have not figured it out yet because it's a challenge. It's not a one day thing, but then it's as time goes on, I keep on navigating and I keep on finding ways and means to be able to be myself and to be able to be happy of who I am. And I think that God created me this way. So also to be able to be happy of God, how God created me to be. And so for me, I think that is what I would say when it comes to like how does queer joy looks like currently in Ghana. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like you got to find happiness where you can and within you. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally get that. And finally, how can we support queer people in Ghana?
I think when it comes to LGBTQI, right, it's a global issue. It's not just Ghana. And so, and our struggle is connected all around. And so that how um, people living in the diaspora everywhere around the countries that they've been able to have some success in terms of laws around same-sex relationships and all that, what they can do is to make their voices heard. We have to keep on standing up for each other. I shouldn't be living in the US for powerful voices in the US, those who have voices in the corridors of power to be able to speak for my existence. I shouldn't be a citizen of the US or Canada or anywhere. But then the mere fact that um, our struggle is connected and we want to see a world that everybody is living freely, we have to make our voices heard and we have to condemn states legislation on same-sex relation or marriage or anything. We have to condemn it. We have to boldly condemn it. We have to go out of our way to be able to support um, organizations in Ghana. Let's be a voice for them in the spaces that we can't be. When we get opportunity to be in those spaces, we should be people in the diaspora should be a voice. They should be able to speak for the community. Also, of course, but then also they also need to have conversation with the community to know what they
Yeah.
are going through and also to know what they'll be able to say at every point in time. And I think also one of the things, a lot of organizations are doing amazing work in Ghana, but the issue also has to do with funding. And so if there are any funded opportunities that we can be connected to, we are glad to be able to, like, for us to be connected to, then we can access those resources, be able to do the work. Yeah.
Thank you so much, David, for answering that question and for just being so candid with this interview and telling us about your experiences and also the experiences that some queer folks face in Ghana. And so, if people want to kind of learn more or follow you on social media, where can they find you?
Thank you. So, yes, on my social media, on Instagram at NanaKuku12, on Twitter, Dave Rhythm. The D is capital and the rhythm, the R is also capital. I am always on my social media because of course we live in the world of social media now. So yeah, people can reach out to me if they want to have more conversation on my social media. If they also want to be official they want to go official with the conversation, they can reach out to me on social media for my email and we can take it from there. I am available to have conversation and have the further conversation around the struggle of LGBTQI people in Ghana and how anyone could support, so how they could be a voice and how they can help. So yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, David.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for also having me. It's been a great conversation. I can't remember the first day when we were just doing the introduction. It went well. Like the conversation was like, oh, I mean, it looks like we even had the whole podcast on that first day
We kind
because,
of did, didn't we?
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah,
I
I love,
mean,
getting to know people before actually like recording because,
that is very important.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So thank you again.
So thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Don't forget to follow Asase on social media at asasebapod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe, follow wherever you're listening to this podcast. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.